Welcome to the Old Mac Gang Podcast, or OMG, the show where longtime Mac and Apple users come together to share practical tips, everyday workflows, and honest takes on Apple technology. I'm Marty Gensius. Tonight, we're going to talk about one of the simplest and most powerful apps built into every Apple device. We're going to be talking about Apple Reminders. And I have to admit, I underuse this, and you'll find that out as our panel of great folks talk about their use and what they have yet to learn. We have links for people in the that'll be in the show notes if you want to look through those links and learn about reminders yourself. But, you know, it's free, it's built in, and it syncs across to all your Macs, iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, and even Vision Pro gets reminders. So let's find out who's with us today, and we will start with Chris.
Yes, good evening. I'm Chris. I'm a 78-year-old retiree here in Tucson, Arizona, member of the Tucson Mac User Group. I started with the Mac in '84 and did a lot with the Apple User Groups for about 9 years, and then did work for Apple for almost another 9 years, and then did some university IT to finish my career. And now I'm happily retired here in Tucson with lots of Apple toys, and really enjoy this group and this podcast.
Okay.
Bob?
Hi, I'm also in Tucson, and I'm happy that Chris is also a member of the Tucson Macintosh User Group. I've been around the Mac since the Mac Classic and the tail end of System 6, and happy to be here.
Peter?
Yeah, I'm Peter. I'm a 73-year-old Apple enthusiast from Bay Village, Ohio. I'm a former foundryman and educator and current retiree. I enjoy chatting about all the gear and gizmos I use and the many, many more that I wish I had with this old gang in our audience.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Charlie Lindahl. I'm 70 years old. I live in Houston, Texas. I actually use something called the Lisa, which predated the Mac. Chris might remember that machine. And so I've been in the Mac world ever since they started in 1984. I have an Apple Watch 10. I have an iPhone 16 Pro. I have a MacBook M1, which I'm about to update to an M5. I'm not sure if it's going to be a mini or a MacBook Pro. And most recently, I'm proud to say that a friend of ours, friends of Chris and mine, is going to be buying me a Vision Pro.
Ooh.
To be used
That's
for
pretty cool.
development. And I would love to tie in with Marty. I know you have one. Chris, I'm trying to remember, do you have one?
No, not yet.
Okay, well, Carl said he's buying me one for WebEdge, and we're going to do development on it. And I've been looking at. I'd like to have a whole show devoted to the Vision Pro because it hasn't sold well, but it never was meant to be a mass market thing. But the stuff on it is absolutely magic. It's incredible science fiction. So anyway, okay, so that's it. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, when Charlie, when you and Chris eventually get one, we can have you on Vision Profiles, which is our Monday night show, where that's all we talk about. We'll bring you in as a guest.
Oh, you need to send me the reference to that. I wasn't aware of it.
Yep, you can find it at thepodtalk.net, where you can find the rest of the shows that I do, and a link to it, and a link to all of the previous and past shows where we talk about Vision Pro. But let's get down to business in terms of reminders. Reminders are a task there's lots of things it can do, and I just haven't tapped into it. It's a task manager. It has a location trigger system. So if you arrive at a certain point that you have in it, it'll trigger the reminder. It's a smart grocery list. And I use a different app for that with my wife. It's a shared family coordination tool if you want to do that. It's a lightweight project manager, and things like don't forget to do this. Don't forget this when I leave, kind of assistant if you want that. Simple things that you can start using today include the use of the S Lady for quick capture, location-based reminders, smart grocery lists, subtasks for small projects, scheduled and reoccurring reminders, tagging and smart lists, and also shared lists. Now, this list and other links that we have are going to be part of the part of the show notes. So you can find the show notes connected directly to either the video version of this or the audio version of this. And there's just all sorts of wonderful things. We will also have these links, which are information on how to use reminders, in this case, on your phone, iPad, or iPod Touch. You can also have just the general reminders user guide, and you can set it to, this one is Mac OS Tahoe, but there are other platforms that you can set this to. A link on how to add dates or location reminders on the Mac, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Of course, if you add it on the Mac, it'll wind up on your phone or any other device. So, myself, I like to put things on and interface with these kinds of task lists and timers. We like to do it, or I like to do it, with on my Mac, knowing that it's going to be on my phone, which is where I'm going to wind up using it. And then shared lists and collaboration possibilities for reminders, in this case on the iPhone, and setting it up that way in terms of shared lists. So you've got these links as part of the show notes, and again, you can find them on the video and also audio version of this program. You can always join us live on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time at youtube.com/@oldmacgang. And as people come in the room, we might even have some comments that we'll post up for that. I noticed Guy Cyril. If you don't know Guy Cyril, he does some great podcasts. And he has kind of joined us, and he says, hey, folks, he loves using it as a grocery list and for recipes can go straight to it. You can get the ingredients on there and such. So there's another good suggestion for folks. And we'll cover some of this. Again, we're trying to help out folks who might just be new to this app and maybe more to the use of it. So, Guy, thanks for dropping that in. And the Guy and Gaz show, the G-Men show, is his podcast that he talks about a lot of things Apple. So thanks for coming in, and glad that you're joining us for this little bit, Guy. So let's go ahead to the questions. What's the simplest way you personally use reminders every day? And I'm going to go to Chris.
Yeah, for me, it's pretty much pushing the crown of my watch. That's the big button on the side, the round one, and just dictating using the S Lady to remind me to do something, which will be a reminder, or make an appointment, which will be a space on my calendar, such as don't forget to do the show notes for tonight or something of that nature. And I welcomed the combination with calendars. It was a little bit controversial, but I like having it all in the same place. Since for me, that gets all my daily to-dos in one place. The bad news is I tend to put everything on my calendar. One of the liabilities of having started on day one with all of this stuff is back in the old days, you could do it all because there wasn't all that much to do. Nowadays, you can overload it. And so my calendar kind of looks like a mess, but, and it can result in some clutter. But for reminders, I'm tempted to delete all my past reminders and just sort of start over again. And it'll be interesting to see with Apple Intelligence how that works out and if it's any different. So that would be my basic. How about you, Bob?
Well, as Marty said, I use reminders for repeating tasks, such as medications and so forth. Although I do wish it had a more flexibility in setting dates. Today I had a couple of tasks that reoccur on the Wednesday after the third Tuesday of the month. And as far as I can tell, I can't do that automatically. I have to edit the task and pick out the date on a calendar. I don't integrate reminders into calendar, as I see reminders, calendar, and to-dos as separate, discrete things. To me, a calendar is for non-repeating events, or some repeating events that I don't classify as tasks, such as birthdays, holidays, and anniversaries. My wife might disagree on the holidays and birthdays and anniversaries part, but that's how my mind works. As far as a to-do list goes, I still use a mini legal pad and jot them down on paper. A lot because I really get a good satisfaction of crossing them off when they're done. Now, if you excuse me for a moment, I need to put household accounts on reminders for tomorrow.
Yeah, Bob, just a comment on that. God, Dr. Mac or the Mac Doctor, God, I can't remember his full name. He had a whole system
Levitas?
in terms of, what was it, Chris?
Bob Levitas?
Bob Levitas. He had a whole system that I adopted and then showed it to a colleague in terms of just writing things down. It's kind of more effective way of doing it. So I respect your mini pad that you used. Peter?
Yeah, I do use reminders every day, but in conjunction with another reminders app. And I started using them when I was able to put them on the calendar. I have all of my calendars set to show Apple reminders alongside events, which means that the reminders that I put into Apple reminders and that show up on the calendar are a certain type, absolute must do's for that day that have to happen, but not at a particular time. I want to see them when I'm looking at that day. So they are a small but very important subset of all my reminder items. The other app I use is for recurring reminders. It's an app called Do that delivers persistent repeating alerts for things like taking medications, taking the garbage to the curb, and so on. And it is remarkably good at setting up a reminder quickly and postponing one when necessary. So that's my practice.
Yeah, I don't use reminders as much. I am on the perpetual look for the to-do list app, and I've been through all of them, that will also remind me to look at the to-do list app because I go through the whole process of putting stuff in, and then I forget about it. And I thought the last leap I made was to reminders, and attempted to kind of do my to-do list for reminders. And from that, I found out it's pretty rich for what I need. I mean, I tried OmniFocus. I tried all of these other more sophisticated approaches that you put lots of data in. If you're working on a team and you're trying to do Gantt charts and stuff like that, that comes in handy. But basically, I'm a one-man show with a lot of the stuff that I need to have in my to-do list. So here's what I do. Reminders is my backup reminder of stuff that I have to do. So if I have a report that's due, I promised it to somebody on Monday, not going to do it on Thursday, not going to do it on Friday, most likely we'll do it on Sunday. I have it in my calendar. Well, I don't necessarily have that task in my calendar. I have it in a task manager that I will ignore, but I can set it up in reminders and it will send me direct notifications that, hey, it's Sunday, get this thing done. So it's my backup. It's my nagging partner. to remind me to get certain things done with that. And finally, Charlie.
Um, I use it for mostly for just the reminders thing, but I tie it into my calendar, and I always put on my calendar 1 hour before, 1 day before, and all my devices beep and go off before my meeting. So I usually make most of the meetings that I've set up, and I do a lot of meetings in my retirement. Um, the other thing is that I need to use the voice with reminders feature, and I haven't been using that much. And of course, I can do that on the watch and on the iPhone, but I mainly use it as reminders tied to my calendar.
Well, before we go on to the second question, I do want to add that Gary is in the room. Gary has been on the show occasionally, was at it for the beginning, and is joining us in the chat room. So, Gary, thanks for joining us. Got some thumbs up and some applause going on there. Guy also mentioned, I'm not sure if you already said this, but you can use the S Lady to create reminders. And that's, I think, when Charlie was talking about doing voice. That's the way to do it, is to say, hey, S Lady, create a reminder for, et cetera, et cetera. And so thanks for bringing that guy to the group's attention. So our next question is, have you ever used location-based reminders, and did they actually work for you?
So initially, they didn't work so well. But, nowadays I'm using them a lot more often. Like when I get home, remind me to call Gary. I haven't talked to him in ages, something like that. Or, um, when I get to a particular place, I'm a little bit leery of saying, like, when I get to Dr. So and so's office, remind me to ask him or her about this, because the problem is I may not get that until I'm on the way home. So, and that's partially my problem because I got too much stuff going on my phone and too many notifications and all of that. But the geofencing has gotten a lot better. You can also use it for times. Um, and I tend to keep those pretty simple. Like, I wouldn't make one up that said, remind me on the next new moon that is not Chinese New Year and not Tibetan New Year to do X. I don't think I'd be relying on that. But it has come a long way and worth looking at again.
Bob?
I haven't used location based reminders as yet, but with suggestions that I might hear tonight, I may be able to add to my skills. One of the things I really appreciate about doing this podcast is the fact that I learned so much. When we talked about reminders a year ago, I had never used it. And now it's part of my daily workflow. So thanks to the other members of the Old Mac gang and for helping me learn new stuff.
Peter?
I haven't used location-based reminders yet, but I believe I should. It makes total sense to me. I know I have tasks that could use a good nudge whenever I leave home. That when I'm out and about is the time to take care of them. An example would be drop these books at the library, and I usually, once one's headed there, it's already in the back seat of my car. So it would be there, and it could be something I could follow up on. And there are a few others worth remembering when I visit a particular place. And an example of that would be my sister's house. There's things, I'm going to take care of with her when I'm there. And if I get there, the reminder goes off. That would be great. The only location service I've ever used is the cancellation of do not disturb focus mode when I leave a particular location. And that actually works. It's been bulletproof for me, and I really like it. So I'm ready for more.
Well, I'm slowly beginning to be convinced that I should give reminders another shot in terms of to-do lists, and maybe put in reminders to remind me to look at my to-do lists. I haven't used location-based reminders. or services, because my life kind of is go to work, come home, go to work, come home. And in that sense, in those two environments, I've got my life pretty much figured out what I'm going to do. And frankly, there's stuff at work that I will do at home because it's easier for me to manage here. So there's not a lot going on in terms of me having to be reminded to do stuff when I get home. I think it's just the whole issue of setting up a task list with reminders that I have to kind of get back into. So, looking for your inspiration, I probably need to find a good reason. Probably the reason, when I go someplace, I'm going there for a purpose. And so I'm not thinking about getting reminded of the purpose when I'm there. So I'll work on it, see what we can do. Charlie.
Yeah, I've played around with it some, but I haven't used them that much. But I did play around and had smart lights outside my house. And I played around with it, turning on the lights when I come near at night and turning them off when I left. Same thing with internal lights and even temperatures. And by the way, that's useful. Having intelligent um, uh, therm- what am I thinking of?
Thermostats.
Thermostats. Thank you. Having intelligent thermostats adjust to where I am is pretty cool, and I have used that. And it definitely has made a difference in my power bill. The other thing is, I think this is more. Uh, it may not be reminders directly, but seeing if I can make them work with air tags and the Find My to tell me when I've left something at home or my cat isn't outside the house when I leave because my cat has an air tag.
Yeah. That's kind of a function of Find My. What happens with me with Find My is I'll be carrying like my book bag where a computer bag where I have have an AirTag on it, and it's sitting right next to me in my car as I'm driving home, and I get a notification that I left my bag was last seen at the university. Well, that was probably the last time it registered. It hadn't registered quite when I was in the car. But what it does is it forces me to think, now, wait a minute, it's right here next to me on my car seat. So the false positives with that don't bother me as much. It's better than having not having or having a false negative with those location services with AirTags. So, last question. Do you use reminders as a lightweight project manager or move to something like Things or OmniFocus?
I haven't. I was reading about it today, and I think that might be something to take a look at. I would be tempted to use something else. Uh, right now, being retired for the last 8 years, the backs of envelopes work pretty well for me, or the legal pad, like Bob said, or my omnipresent Apple Notes. But I can recall university colleagues using Things and OmniFocus, and I think it's whatever glove fits on your hand kind of thing, right? What is the right tool for what you're doing? And I think one of the big issues I have is, I've been plagued with notifications. I'm one of these people that opens a new app like Apple Notes and says I'm interested in just about everything, and then I get completely flooded with information. So same thing with notifications. I had to go through and just mercilessly turn almost all of them off. And I don't need breaking news from 8 different apps. That tends to get in the way of what the Mac's trying to tell me that's important to me, right? So, um, but yeah, I think there are good tools out there. I haven't tried this one. I'll be curious to see if anybody has. Bob?
I don't use reminders for this type of use. When I need a lightweight project manager, my first choice is the mini legal pad. Uh, if I have a weightier or longer duration or more complex projects, I either use TextEdit or Pages to create a checklist or an outline, and I choose which one of those to use at the moment that I need to start it.
Peter.
For lightweight project management tasks, I use Things. I've been using it for quite a while now. And it's really my prime grand repository for all the things I want to do in my life. And I guess I consider to dos different than reminders, as I think Bob and some others have said. Uh, if I want to do, if something's time critical, I can toggle it into a reminder in that app. And I like Things because it's very adept at moving items around, grouping them, tagging them, turning them into projecty type things. And I keep the content for what I'm aspiring to do today in front of me in a widget, and it'll jump me right into the app. And I would note that Things costs money. It's a one-time purchase, but it's expensive, requiring separate purchases for iPhone, iPad, and Mac, $80 for all three. And you can go Vision Pro as well and go to $110. And for what it's worth, going to big projects, I don't use project control apps either. I use a Google Doc if the management is by a group. And if it's just me, I use Obsidian. But I think you got to be a professional project manager to use some of that project management software that I've looked at.
Yeah, my panic to always find something that will organize my work. As I mentioned before, I have always been looking for the thing that's going to help me organize my work, ignoring the fact that it's me that's probably the obstacle there. So I've tried a bunch of these that are on the market. I did try OmniFocus, and Bob might remember this. Guy Cyril's in the chat room might remember this, that there was a person who did a presentation at MacStock on OmniFocus and showed us all the wonderful things he could do. And it's like, okay, I'm in. I am in. And as a result of that, I got OmniFocus, and it works on a getting things done kind of approach, which is a philosophy about moving things through. And I set up complicated subtasks that I was going to do for it, and then felt pretty chained to it if I was going to do anything. And it wasn't a healthy kind of thing. So I wind up forgetting about it. It's a rather expensive program. I have Things, maybe I'll try that again or go back to it with Peter's inspiration. But I also am thinking maybe reminders is all I need at this point. And it's pretty powerful in itself, but just something that pops up on the screen and says, don't forget you got to do this. And so that's sort of where I am. This is on me. It's not on the products that I've talked about. Charlie.
I don't use it for a mini project manager. When I was at A&M, we had Trello and something called Monday, which are both subscription-based things. And I did get into OmniFocus for a while and this getting things done that Marty mentioned. And I'm about ready to do some actual projects, so I think I'll go back to the actual, project management type tools rather than try and stretch reminders.
Yeah. I recently had a project, or still am on a project that I was directing to do some rewrites of policy manuals for an association. And I was going to create a Gantt chart, and we were going to have timelines, and people were going to sign up for it. And, there's cost to those things. Those are subscription costs. They're complicated. And I found out, I don't think anybody else in the group, I think they knew what a Gantt chart looked like, but nobody else on the group wanted to get into the technology to be able to work with it. So I wound up doing what Peter had suggested, created essentially an Excel spreadsheet with the projects along a timeline with people who are going to be involved in it. And they refer to that now sort of more so than they ever would with a Gantt chart. So I do want to put another comment in. This one comes from Gary. Thanks to Peter for things. I'll try it on my Mini. And, you know, who knows, after the show, maybe I'll open up things, maybe I'll open up reminders and try and get working on organizing some of the stuff that I typically forget. So I'm going to go and ask the group if there's anything left that they would like to chat about. No?
Well, I got to tell you, I started going back to the Vision Pro thing, and I'm going to definitely get on your podcast. By the way, it was podcast.net, not or podtalk.net.
Net.
It was, yeah. I didn't
Yeah.
find it initially. I am very excited about the Vision Pro stuff, and I'm a big 3D printer enthusiast at my makerspace.
Yeah.
And I found a thing called Stellar something or other. I can get to the name. That's a Vision Pro app that lets me look at any 3D model that I can download from Thingiverse that has like 3 million models.
Yeah.
And anything that's done in 3D modeling, you can see on the Vision Pro and be able to use the gestures to move it around and all that kind of stuff. I'm really looking forward to playing with that. Have you played with that at all, Bob or Marty?
No, I haven't. I've heard of it, and there's some other things that they're doing with 3D printers that recently came out that was about with the Vision Pro. As soon as you take it off, it resets, and then it has to have the so if you're moving it around or putting it down for a minute, somebody came up with some 3D printed covers that will trick the Vision Pro into thinking that there are eyes still there. And there is the 3D printer program, or not a program, but there's a 3D printer file that you can purchase from someone, or you can just order from someone to make them for you in order to do that. So there's some cool stuff going on with that. I've seen a lot of modifications, not with the Vision Pro, but with Galaxy and with Meta, where people are cutting off pieces of their thing and then modifying it using 3D printers. Too expensive of a toy for me to do that. So, but there are some interesting things that you can do with it. So let's go to close. All right. I want to thank the folks in the chat room. Guy Cyril and also Gary was in there, and other folks who were watching along the way that didn't put comments in. But hey, we're happy to have you here. And this wraps up this episode of the Old Mac Gang podcast, or vodcast. Hope you found new ways to work with reminders tonight, or at least think about them again. Like Bob had kind of said, I'm going to go back to the pool and see what else I can do for it. And in terms of productivity system or a checklist or a task manager, all those things are possible with it. Thanks to our team, Charlie, Chris, Peter, and Bob. And please subscribe, share, or join us the next time for more practical Apple tech talk. And particularly that's related to folks in our age group and looking for ways to get better uses out of their device. You can find us at YouTube at youtube.com/@OldMacGang. You'll find all of the shows there if you want to go back and look at some previous ones. And you can also go to the website, as Charlie had mentioned, thepodtalk.net. And then email us at thepodtalknetwork@gmail.com if you have some ideas, suggestions, or questions that you'd like us to take a look at on the show. We appreciate you joining us in real time and also whenever you can. So thanks for being part of that, and thanks for being part of the Old Mac Gang.